Hello and good day. ShawnJ here, and welcome to Underneath the Shade Tree. On today's episode, I'm joined by filmmaker and storyteller LaChris Jordan, as she shares with us some lessons of experiencing other cultures, the gift of living in multiple cities across the U.S., and how her love of words and reading keeps her open to learning about herself as well as others. So grab yourself a beverage or a snack and join us underneath the shade tree. Hey girl.
How are you?
I am good. How you doing?
I'm doing amazing. So excited
Well,
to talk to you.
perfect. Thank you. Well, welcome to Underneath the Shade Tree. Today, my guest is LaChris Jordan. How you doing, girl?
I'm phenomenal, as you
So,
are.
trying to be. And you're currently living in LA, right?
Yes, I'm living in LA. I've been here for about almost 7 years.
Where are you originally from?
Oh gosh, everywhere. I was born in the Bay Area in
Okay.
Oakland and was raised in New Orleans and Seattle.
Oh,
And made my way here in LA about 2013. Been everywhere.
yeah. You're that's nice because like New Orleans and then the Bay and Seattle, very, very different environments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always tell people I'm a little bit of the Southern girl and the Cali girl.
Okay.
So I appreciate my Southern roots for sure.
Yes. Yes. I could tell by some of your posts where you're ready to go, like, I may be sweet, but
Indeed.
there's a little bit of vinegar up in there too. So any siblings?
No, it's just me.
Okay. And what would you say is your line of work?
I am a screenwriter. I'm a screenwriter and a director. And I've been seriously for about 3 years. But prior to that, I was working extensively in theater, was acting, I was primarily writing. And then I decided to jump into it and come to LA and say, let me do this TV film thing. But my roots are always theater, my first love.
So what was the motivation for like going into screenwriting?
Oh, well, I've always loved movies. I've always loved film. I've always loved that type of storytelling through the visual medium. And but theater was always about the words for me. It was always about how do we tell this story in real time and make it incredibly real and visceral. And as I begin to understand the power of cinema, the reach of cinema, I begin to say, you know what, there's things I want to say when I know I can do more by seeing it in this medium. And so I said, it's time. Let me go to another level, not necessarily abandoning my theater roots, but taking this to another space where I can reach more people with messaging, with visuals that I've always wanted to see. And so that's why I came to LA, and it's been an interesting, interesting ride.
Yes, but you just recently had a successful film
Yes,
that you directed. That
yes,
is, I'll let you talk about that.
yes. January 14th. Wow. You know, January 14th, like so many of my stories have come from real space, stories I want to tell, things that are inside of me. And when I wrote this script, I said I really wanted to explore this whole nature of the grieving process of loss. And then as I dove even deeper, I said, you know what, there's more to tell in this story. This idea of a couple who are celebrating their anniversary and what happens when external forces come in and kind of change that dynamic. So basically, it's about a couple who experiences the after effects of what happens to her husband after he's pulled over by a police officer. And of course, there's so much going on in the world right now. So when I wrote that story, I had no idea what 2020 was going to look like at all. But this was something that I really wanted to say. And goodness, when George Floyd happened and so many other subsequent cases begin to come to the forefront, I said, "Wow, this is about intuition. This is the time to tell this story." the film was necessary and it's needed still during film festivals right now, and it's been overwhelming to say the least because it's not just here in the United States where the film is being shown, but this has gone to London and even Australia. Hey, and we went to film, so this is intense. This is beyond what I had expected, but I'm so happy. And casting crew, we're family, and I'm so happy that we've been able to tell this story, and so many people have been able to see it. So that's it in a nutshell. There's more to say about it, but yes, that's it.
No, but it was great. I think a key thing that you just said was that it wasn't expected, and I think that's the perfect element or ingredient in doing something that's coming from your spirit, is that your only expectation is to tell the story and to tell the truth. And then what comes after that is all gravy. And I that's the sweetest part, because when I saw it, I was like, going, okay, girl. Yes. And not that I was like, yes, it was just like afterwards, I was like, my girl did that. Because watching it was not like, oh my gosh. But then after, I was like, going, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So keep on telling those stories, honey. Yes, we
Thank
need you.
you. Thank you.
What is a favorite thing for you to do outside of filmmaking?
I love to hike. I love to, as I get older, I get more appreciative of what's around me. And so, usually for me, is not just physical, but it's also just getting out and being with nature. Even with the pandemic and all these health issues that we have going on right now, I still say, you know what? I still need to connect with nature. I still need to connect. I love reading. I'm a huge proponent of history, so I'm always reading new stuff. And of course, I always go back to film and television when I have a lot of time. Well, that's relative, of course. I have to make the time, But essentially, it's finding those things and just connecting with people. The film has definitely pushed that, and I realized that there are missions to accomplish in this world, and so you have to continually be curious about people and engaging in these conversations and discussions about life, because that's how I learn, that's how I grow. And so I'm finding that I'm deliberate about the things I do on a daily basis.
How do we know each other?
So I heard about you before I auditioned for the play, which was called Well by Lisa Cron, right? And so I was like, oh, this is ShawnJ, wow. And you were super focused. I expected you to be super focused. You were dead serious about your play, dead serious about theater. And I love that. And actually, I think we were in like less than 2 weeks. And so I had the script and I was like, oh, I'm playing all these multiple characters. And so I was really, really pushing my, hey, I gotta get off book, I gotta get these lines, I gotta get this blocking. So it was a lot to do. But as you know, that was also the moment where things changed for me physically. I got injured, for the audience purposes of the viewers, is that I ruptured my Achilles. And I thought initially somebody had pushed me. I was like, "What's happening?" And I was, "Well, I think I'm seriously injured here," you know. But having said that, I kept going. I kept going. But then I was disappointed too. I was super disappointed because it was such a fun play, and the ensemble was amazing.
Yeah, I remember getting that call. It was sort of, ShawnJ, Chris, she injured herself somehow, and so we don't know what to do. And I was assistant directing with David Chad on that, and I was like, what what are you asking me to do here? And so because I thought you couldn't put any weight on it, like you
No
like,
way whatsoever.
and the part was like it required you to move around. I
Yes,
have a lot, and so I ended up filling in for you,
I know.
script in hand, and I was like, and then I eventually got off book, but I was like, I had no intention of memorizing this, so why would I? Yes, that's how we met in wonderful Seattle.
Right, right.
What would you say is something that you are most proudest of thus far in your life now?
Wow. I want to say it's the film, but I also say that I spent a lot of my career teaching people how to write plays. And I think those have been the moments where I've been the most proudest because I was helping someone else to see what they could create and the beauty that they can create and helping young people understand their true, even if they never write another play in their life, they know that they can create something beautiful. And in realizing in the end that there's so much that can be done in this world through the arts, through creating. Um, and I miss it. I still want to teach. I want to go back and teach them. And so for about 3 years, I worked with middle school students. I worked with high school students, and it was just amazing because some of these students were told that they, had learning disabilities, and they were told various things about themselves. But one of the things that I wanted to create was the possibility that they could do more than what they've been told. So I really feel like, if anything, that is what I've been most proud of.
It's like giving back to others and helping them and lifting them, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, this would be a perfect time to start that back up. You don't have to go anywhere. You can do it from home.
Yeah. I thought about that too. And I said, I want to give it some time, some really good time. But yeah, definitely. Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
I'm always like sprinkling little things,
Thank you. You do.
What would you say are some challenges that you've had in your life up to this point that have helped inform you to be who you are?
Wow. One thing I can say about living in different parts of the world and even in this country is that they're not always safe havens. You learn very quickly that the world isn't ideal. I think one of the most profound moments I had when I learned that this was going to be a very interesting ride in life was when I was living in the South, and this was the same moment in time when David Duke, a former Klansman, and Governor Edwin Edwards are running for the governorship. And you live in a space where we're not really having to deal with it very much. It's very minor. But living there during that time, the 6 years I was living in New Orleans, I quickly found out that, hey, we have never really left the 1940s and 50s. And so in that space, I really began to say, okay, it isn't just about how to live in this space as a Black person, but what do I have to do to navigate all of this and without losing my cool? you know. And I found that the best thing you can ever do is just, educate yourself. That's the biggest thing, is educate yourself. Because you're gonna be challenged. You're gonna have folks come at you in crazy ways. So just give people facts. Back them up. Back them up with facts. Because some people really don't care about how you feel,
Right.
right? But if you present to them, look, this is history, this is real, you're giving them some lessons to think about, right? And so I learned that was my first foray into um, dealing with how to tolerate people, even when you don't really want to. And then, of course, I go to another extreme. About 1998, I moved to Dubai in the UAE in the Middle East. So, I mean, different religion, different culture, different everything, right? And it took me a good 6 months to adjust, right? And in that country, as people are familiar with, it's still very sexist, if you will. And so I had to deal with that. I had being a woman and being a Western woman, right? And at that time, as a Black woman, I was looked upon as anything significant because, at least culturally, I don't know what it's like now, but during that time, there was a lot of prostitution. I'm going to be honest. There was prostitution in the country, and some of the women who were prostitutes looked like me, right? So I was getting a lot of harassment. Then, of course, when you start speaking, oh, you're American. And they're making that connection between what's an American and what is a black woman is something completely
Yes.
right. Because now you're talking to me as a quote unquote American, but now you're asking tons of questions about, well, what's it like? It becomes a different conversation, right? So that shaped me a lot. And I will honestly tell you that when I came back to the States, and I began to again go from seeing myself as a black woman to now seeing myself as, you know, a woman in the sense that I was getting attention in a way that I wasn't used to getting here in the United States, where men are, harassing you and touching you in unwelcome ways. Like, what is this? And the street side of me is like, you're about to get knocked out. You know what? And this is like, it was really surreal for me at a time. So I came back with a bit of an edge on my shoulder. It was at a chip. And I was a little tough. I was more masculine, if you will. And, but I was safe, right? Quote unquote safer. But it really did shape how I saw the world. People don't know what's going on out here. They really don't. They don't know what's going on in the world other than what they're reading about. So um, there's been a lot more that's happened to me since then, but those are the two most significant, I would say, periods of my life where my eyes got really open to the world and I stopped taking things for granted. Yeah,
That's a lesson.
absolutely.
It's a very valuable lesson. I was like, kind of go. So, what is that? One of your greatest lessons you've learned thus far?
Oh, wow.
Is there another one that you would say a lesson that's informed how you move through the world more so, or maybe relate to people?
Um, well, I think with all things, when you experience loss, you begin to, again, not take things for granted. My mother was such an incredible influence in my life. And when she passed, it hit me hard. And it took me a while to get my footing, to understand that, life is still moving on. Even though I'm in my grief, the world was still moving. I had to figure out a way to keep up. But I began to hear the things that she had told me, remember them, and really, it really touched me. And I began to appreciate all the sacrifices she had made. And so what that did for me was help me to appreciate people more and not take things for granted. Now, granted, we only have so many hours in a day to connect with our loved ones and to be present. But I will say that, when you experience that kind of deep loss, you really begin to suss out the things that matter and the things that don't. And you really sometimes stop caring about things. That's not important. So it really helped me to sift through the things that I used to get upset about. Like, that's not important. It really wasn't, right? And it really helps you to open up to the things that are and do it without apology. Because I used to be apologetic. Oh, I'm so sorry I can do this. I'm so sorry I can do that. Apologizing so much. I said, you know what? I just had this incredible loss in my life and I lost my best friend. And so now, what's important? How do I stay present? How do I stay in this moment, right? And you begin to realize, life is it's so incredibly precious. And as we're seeing in this crazy living in right now, with so much that's happened in 2020, it's even more poignant, even more.
And the thing is about having someone close to you, especially if they're really, really close and you really, really learn from them, it can bring such, what I used when my mom passed away in 2011, it gave me such clarity.
Yes.
To your point, it was like things were so clear about what was important, what needed my attention, what I didn't give a rat's ass about. It was so revealing to me. It was like, okay, I need to do this. I need because to your point, we have this finite amount of time to do what we're supposed to do, and do the things we need to do.
Yes.
And I think that it's unfortunate for some of us that it takes a intimate death of someone to have that clarity. And I know some folks get it earlier, but I think it depends on where you're from, what you're being involved in, which
Yes.
brings you on that clarity earlier, that you appreciate those moments with those you love, but also appreciate that you are on this planet to do something
Yes.
and do
Absolutely.
something that matters, and taking the advantage of it, and sailing with it. So yes, honey, in 2020, all about
2021.
clarity. 2020 is like, oh, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna
Yes.
show y'all.
Yes, indeed, it has. I think it's also been a shocker for many people because so many of us were comfortable. We're going about our days and hanging out with friends, trying money. We had this, we had that. And boy, I tell you, that rug was jerked from under us. Well,
Like, I'll show you.
you
I'll show you true footing. Whoop.
yes, indeed. So, but I think people are more serious about life. Life is fun, but it's not all fun and games. This is we're dead serious, but it's deep. It can't be wasted.
Because there are some people who don't have that opportunity to live a full life, and
Mhm.
when you are given that gift, you are meant to do something with that gift.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
yes, honey. So is there? I know, like we Black folks, we deal with racism. You're a
Mm.
woman, you deal with sexism. Is there anything that has annoyed you in your life that significantly annoyed you? I would say in your life, and what was it, and how did you navigate it?
I'm still annoyed by things. I think the biggest thing I'm annoyed. People still love to remain ignorant.
Uh,
We are in 2020, right? Some of the things that I hear people talk about is as if they don't read books. It's as if memories are short. And when you try to explain, I understand you're going to forget things. But if I'm sharing with you my experience and you negate it, say, oh, but I hear you saying but. Where is the but if I'm sharing my experience with you and what I'm encountering? And I'm finding that, we're having less and less intelligent discourse,
yeah,
not just even debate, because anyone can go back and forth with someone. But in the discussion, we should be learning. And I think it's a time to be quiet rather than to keep talking. you know, just as my grandmama would say, shut your mouth. And it wasn't to be mean.
no, I mean,
What folks were saying to us was listen, you're going to learn something, right?
yeah,
And that's the hardest part. I'm more about it. And the journalist in me is going to ask more questions. I want to understand why you feel that your experiences have been, so that when I do come to you and we do have a discussion, I'm coming from an informed place.
yeah.
So I tend to shut people down a lot, not meaning to, because I want them to think about. You're laughing at me because you've seen my post. People to think about what they're really saying.
Yeah.
I need you to think about that, right? And you don't even necessarily have to have education, just prudence.
Yeah.
So I'm finding that, and it always comes down to basic common respect as well.
Yeah.
We've lost respect for each other, right? And that's the core of any relationship. If I do not respect you, therefore anything goes, right? So, but how can I disrespect you if I don't know anything about you? So, what we're having here is a lot of assumptions that are made. And so, what I find myself having to do is to pose real questions to people. So, what experience have you had? And that's not to be condescending, that's really to get people to think about what they're saying. because what you post, because people are vicious, they will screenshot your stuff in a minute. So you so you have to be super careful about the things you say. Lost jobs by being ignorant. They've lost careers, reputations. So again, you have to be prudent, and that's really what I get frustrated about with people. Is you need to think. You got to lose your whole livelihood by not thinking.
It's amazing because I think, to your point, and like I have been a viewer of your responses, and a person who's going, yes, honey. And I will admit, just recently, some person, I don't even know this child, had a, this child made a response, made a post. A friend had an exchange with this person. It was about Breonna Taylor and
Mm,
these no knock warrants. And so this child was saying this stuff that, it's legal, it's legal, it's legal. And but
mhm.
this child was so focused on being right about the legality
Yeah,
of no knock warrants, he was not concerned with the fact that everything he was doing was qualifying the murder of somebody.
that's right.
It's like you are more concerned with being right about this law and
Mhm.
about their actions than the fact that someone human is now dead.
That's right.
You have totally separated and disconnected from the realities of what this person just experienced, right?
Mhm.
And they were so wrapped up in that. And so my friend commented, and so then unfriend blocked him. And so my friend made a post about his interaction, right? I
Right.
responded to my friend's post and said, "Oh, that child isn't awake. He doesn't know something about no knock warrant, something like that." This child, I guess, saw that post,
Uh-huh.
reached out to me in Messenger, DM'd me.
Right.
Yes, honey. Yes. And
Wants
I
you
was like,
to.
who are you? And he goes, well, you made a comment on my post. I went, I don't know you. I don't know what post you're talking about. Well, he had screen grabbed, to your point, screen grab my response. And my response was like, I thought, nuance. Like I'm saying, ain't no police using no knock warrants for white folks. Right? That's because the crux of it, I don't know any white people who've been killed by the police based on a no knock warrant. Well, his point was like, that's a lie. That's incorrect information. No knock warrants aren't used against white people. And going, yeah, you're missing the point of what I'm talking about. It's like we're talking about someone died, and he went back. It DM'd me. I said I don't really care. I said I don't know you, and finally I have to admit, and he probably if he has a screen grab, he has it forever because I was like I was done. I said please don't contact me again. You're more. I don't need you to contact me about nuances and semantics. And
Right.
then he said something else, and I owe this. I said, "Bitch, please," and then I blocked him. So going, and I was like, "No, there's a screen grab probably out there of ShawnJ calling the boy bitch," and it's like, but I was like, "Bitch, please, you don't know me."
Right. Right.
You were so focused on being right about this.
Mhm.
I ain't got the energy or the time. So that
Well,
may come back someday, and I
you
will
know,
own
I said this. I think about what I'm saying when I write stuff, and if I say something like a bitch, please, I meant that, and I hope you screen grab it because I'm very conscious in what I'm saying in the time that I'm saying it, and I stand by it.
it. Yeah,
So, and in this space of social media where people feel they can do whatever they want to do, they would never see you in public. They would never go there. Wouldn't go there. They would look at you one time and be like, oh no, he's not the one. Right? But online they get crazy.
oh yeah.
Like,
Wait,
you think you I can't find you. One thing I can say about our social media space is when you're in safe space, people are very protective of each other. And if you haven't found that person, other person says, "Oh, this is." Remember with that Central Park incident that happened, and well, I'm not friends with the writer, but I know of the writer. She put that up on her Instagram, and boy, went viral, and everyone was like, "Oh, but this is her name." Her own colleagues outed her. her own color. Oh, this is her name, and this is this. People are vigilant these days, and they are tired of crazy. They are tired of people being just out of control. So, the one way social media has been has been a blessing and a curse. What it's actually done is keep more people I want to see in check,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of things that have happened in this world that we didn't know what was going on. We had no camera phones. No, did have a phone, you weren't able to post things as quickly as you do now. So we have so many journalists that are out here, I should say pseudo journalists, that are vigilant. Whenever you see a cop, people are standing looking. I see it on the streets. Everybody's looking. They're no longer playing. They're like, what are you doing? And it could just be a simple traffic stop. But people will slow. It's real these days in these streets.
The unfortunate thing with that, you would think with all eyes now being on everyone, that people would start to modify their behavior. But some folks just feel more emboldened. They don't give a shit. They say going, yeah, you recorded me, I don't care. Because they have already adopted this, I'm right. I have support behind me. Nothing you're recording or witnessing is gonna matter because of that very fact. And it's so, I would love for us to get to a point where when something is happening, people actually step in
Yes.
to stop it, and then they take that risk of like going, I'm something you're doing wrong. I can stop you without hurting anybody, and I'm going to do that. It's like I love that we were recording everything, but
Right.
now everything's recorded, but stuff was happening long before then. It's like, so we need to find that realization of, wow, imagine what was happening before we had recorders, before we
Mhm.
were doing this. So like, it's not, and I love when folks think it's gotten worse. It's like, no, it's just on par. You just now have the ability to capture it and
Absolutely.
now circulate it, and now everyone sees it. And of course, with COVID, everyone's at home, ain't got nowhere to
Right.
go. They got to see it,
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, I think it's one of those things of like, I would love us to get to that point where we won't need as much recording of this
Right.
asinine behavior.
Right. I totally agree. I totally agree. I think as a citizen, you have to say to yourself, what am I going to do in this moment?
Yeah,
Right. And I think people are still fearful of getting involved because they don't want to get hurt. They don't want to have any spotlight on themselves. They want to protect themselves. They say, well, at least I have it on recording. We can record what just happened. Um, but there's just certain things, if I saw it, just my natural reaction coming from where I come from and how I was raised. I do certain things like if I saw a woman being attacked, I couldn't just stand there recording it.
no,
I would find some sticks. I would find some stoves. I would do my best. Okay, now I'm not going to run into gunfire. I'm not going to be that crazy. Um, but I think there's a period in your life where you say, what are you going to do in this moment? And we don't ever really know. And unfortunately, there have been instances where people have stepped in and it's cost them their lives. We understand that. I also say that sometimes that's a moment of truth for you as an individual. And what would you do if that was your family? You would do the same thing for your family, right? No doubt. Do we still say, do we just walk on by when it's not a family member, even though we know that there's a crime being committed, something really tragic happening here in this situation, you know? So it's a moment I think we all might face one day. Hopefully, we won't. But we do know this: there's a lot of stuff going on in this world, and you have to know where you stand. You have to have that constitution about yourself and say, okay, what would I do? Not, oh, I hope that never happens to me. No, what would you do? Because this world getting as large as it is, it's also getting very small, right? And we don't have the luxury of sitting on our couches anymore, of sitting back and saying, oh, I'll let somebody else handle it. We have decisions to make in
yes,
terms of how we decide how we protect our loved ones, how we care for our loved ones. And we can't just sit back and wait for someone to handle it, you know,
right.
and make that decision about what do we do in these certain situations. And And ultimately, and you still have to be responsible for your own life. How do I take care of myself? How do I keep myself as strong and healthy mentally and physically as possible? Because there's too much, at least before COVID, this reliance on someone else to help me, someone else to solve the problem. And, when they did everything on their own, they had their own medicines. They knew the farm. They were truly, truly self sufficient. So, and I think about life now, and I say we've gotten comfortable and
Oh yeah,
lazy.
lazy, complacent,
Yes,
or complacent.
absolutely. They grew up in hard times, and it was real. There's no faking it. They literally did pick cotton. Real talk. Okay, they were discrimination was everywhere. So yes, I feel a lot of ways about some things, but we did not have legal laws telling us go sit in the back of the bus, go to this bathroom, go to this restaurant. I mean, we have a lot going on, but we were not legally told. We have not been legally told this is what you're going to do or else. Now, there's in some spaces there's a rollback. Because look what happened to Mr. Arbery, the young man who died in Georgia, jogging, trying to get exercise in. Here you have some fools who think they have the right to ambush a young black man just because he's where they don't be. If that doesn't reek of 1940s. So we still have pockets in this space here where it's not just safe, but there's too much audacity. There's too much assumption about what we should be as people of color. And I think this isn't real talk. And having lived in the South, it's real. I worked in the office where a woman openly used the air, did not get fired, did not get sent home. Well, she did for about 3 days, excuse me. So, and I have other stories, but I get passionate about it because people will say, oh, well, there's no more racism. You guys aren't experiencing anything. You have it so good. Okay, really? So, again, ask me my story and I will tell you.
Well, it's interesting because I think a lot of folks, when it comes to discourse, or we would hope discourse, is that folks never ask a question. It's just there's all these assumptions. They have all the answers to questions they never bother to ask.
Yes.
Whereas ask ask a damn question
Please.
and and then see what the response is and respond to that. Don't have this idea that well, I already know what they've experienced. I already know what they're going to say, because I think people in general do that when they're having this. They see someone or a group of folks. They have already assessed what they know about these people or this person, and haven't even bothered to ask the question,
Yes.
what did you experience? How did that feel? And sit in that, as opposed to, oh, you didn't really feel that. That wasn't real. Or that can't be real. Because that wasn't your experience. No. But because it was this person's experience, just simply listen and go, that's fucked up. Like, that's a response
Yeah.
that's genuine. It's like, wow, that's fucked
Yeah.
up. But don't go the other way. I think there's people who just don't want to ask a question. They just want to be right.
Yes.
It's all about being right. And instead of like finding commonality, finding understanding, if that were the goal, honey, we'd be so much better off.
Absolutely.
Jeez.
Absolutely.
But no,
Because I
you're
will
right.
never experience certain things that are happening in the world. Never. So it's not even about getting you to feel what I feel because you probably never will. But at least I'm in front of you and I'm telling you what's happening because of the proliferation of video and the proliferation of impactful documentaries and film. A little bit more informed, right? They're beginning to see things in a way that they hadn't saw them before. But again, I focus on the people who are resistant, right? And they may be a lost cause, forget it, right? But I still think there's room in this space where even now there's nothing you can do with people who deny. I'm done with you because you understand what I'm saying. I'm not going to keep going back and forth with you for another 24 hours. So, but that's why I went and said that film was going to be my voice. It was going to be the space where I could visually tell this story in a way that was non-political, but yet came from the human space. Because it's really easy to politicize issues.
Oh yeah.
But if you come from the human perspective, there's so much more you can talk about. And one thing I can say, particularly about the film, is that it's generated conversation, and not just the politics of it. This whole, dynamic of law and what's right and what isn't. It's like, no, this is what we're left with. No matter how you feel politically, someone's gone. And this is what this person has experienced because of that loss. So, and I think filmmakers are becoming much more skillful at telling their story and telling it in a way that folks can get it. I mean, I love film. I love it for that reason.
I look forward to more of yours.
Yes, and we do have another one coming. I'm always thinking about 2 or 3 projects ahead, and of course, depending on time and money, I switch things up. But ultimately, in the end, I realize that I'm here to create stories that impact, to use the cliche, to impact the world. Quite frankly, and it goes back to mission. Why am I here? What am I doing when I wake up? Why am I telling this story? Now, keep in mind, I'm not necessarily telling a story with the intention to say, I'm going to make this a mission oriented, film. No, I'm in it. I'm living in the moment with these characters. But as you know, film and theater, everything's very collaborative. So I learn more once I move to the next level of collaboration and bringing in, a team, say, hey guys, what do you think about this? Let's talk about it. How do we create this final product? It's going to be seen around the world and create something that's timeless, quite frankly.
Yeah. Timeless and true.
Yes.
So I love how this just kind of rolls in. Timeless and true. If you could change the world or one person's impact on the world, what or who and why?
Wow, that's such a deep question. But if I could change the world, it would really be like we were in ancient times and spend all day in university, if that makes sense. World a bit more informed. Because in ancient times, the large universities were philosophies. It was about saying, okay, you have this philosophy about this, but here's here's a devil's advocate position. Because I don't think we have enough of that. We're so focused on earning a living. We're so focused on, the busyness of life that we don't have time to really read anymore. We don't have time to really have deep contemplative thought. I think because of COVID, we were able to get some more of it because, we were shut down literally. But I really would love to see people reading more and really spending more time being, contemplative. And because I think that's really how we get to understanding, is to be open to ideas that are not necessarily you're comfortable with. For us to be rigid, it's insane, really, because we haven't created the universe. We didn't even create ourselves, right? So there's a certain humbleness that needs to come from knowing that you don't know everything and that there's so much more to learn and that we are all here to learn from each other. no matter what country we've been born in, no matter our gender, no matter our backgrounds. Everyone's a teacher and a student at the same time, quite frankly. And so, how do we move into those spaces? And so, I really would wish and hope that people slow down a little bit and get informed about things, really be discerning. And you'll find that the more you learn, the more questions you have. Stop being so definitive about everything. I mean, yeah, you have to choose. Let's be real. Black and white sometimes. There's a lot of gray areas, but you got to make choices. You can't sit on the fence about everything, right? But in that, something it's going to probably shift and change with new experiences, right? Definitely how we felt when we were 14 and 15, we don't feel that way anymore. And it's going to continue to change, right? That's why I love old people because they've seen so much and they will tell you that's not important.
In a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat, because they've been exposed to so much in their lives and they were intelligent and they made it through. And so that, that would be my thing in terms of changing the world is got to get people reading, we got to get people thinking and really using their comprehension a lot more. And yeah, I mean that's the beginning to me. I think that's the start.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction because I think we don't do that. We don't read to comprehend. We don't listen to understand.
Mm-hmm.
We just sort of that definitiveness about, oh, I know what I'm talking about. It's like, well, maybe you don't know it all.
Right.
So stay a little bit open about something. Like you may know all about yourself,
Right.
and you can be sure about that depending on a situation.
Right.
Like, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know I would do that. You don't really know. Nothing is really definitive except for death.
Right.
As the only thing that's done. So
That is true.
I wish we just have that openness to find a way to inform ourselves fully with facts, not anecdotes, not what somebody told their mama, who told their daddy, who then told their brother,
Right.
who told their
That's right.
telephone don't work, but like factual information. And if you don't believe it, go research it. And I don't mean just Google, because we all know what Google does, but
Right.
like, open yourself up to be the possibility of like, and I think that's why I love this concept of shade tree is that I'm learning things from folks that I love. And I love the quote that you just made about we are all teachers and learners at the same time. It's like that is something I always believe in. We all have something to learn. We all have something to teach. And it's like that's what we're here for. And if we think we're all teachers, boo boo. Somebody gonna knock you off that pedestal.
That's right.
Keeping it real. Sweet. So I love this. So what is something that brings you joy or has brought you joy?
Wow. I guess I could say I love connecting with nature.
Okay.
It's so humbling. It's so humbling, and you are a little microbe in this universe, right? That you have to remain humble because Mother Nature's going to show you that you have no power. That you have no power. That you will succumb to her each and every time. And she does not play. That to me is incredibly wondrous and humbling and all of that. And then, the things that bring me joy is learning. I love learning new things. I love being exposed to different cultures, different people. And it's like, look at that. And now I understand. So I'm always on this exploration of how can I learn more? And I don't mind being checked. You check me. I want you to say, look, Chris, you don't know what you're talking about. I want people to say, look, Chris, this is my experience. And I remember when I was little, I love words. And so one of the things I realized looking back is that words were everything. But in that building of the words and sentences were stories. And I knew that there was something I was meant to do and to tell more stories. But in that, I had to live. I had to learn more. I mean, one thing I could say about learning is it's the first step to creating, in my personal opinion. Whether you're creating a novel, a play, whatever it is that you're doing, it starts with that research, right? And so that's where I come from. And I get excited when I'm about to learn something new or expose myself to something different. And when I do that, I can move with more confidence. I can move with more understanding. I can move with purpose, right? And so I want people to know that there's nothing wrong with learning something new. There's nothing wrong with being uncomfortable, right? Because it's really fear, I think, that holds people back from doing so much and from really opening themselves up. So to me, I get excited about that. And just, just waking up every day is never going to be the same. And the day after that, and the day after that. Like, I like a little uncertainty. I do. I remember a spiritual teacher of sorts that I met in Dubai, and one of the lessons he taught us was that expectations reduces joy. We have, exactly, we have all these things that we expect, right? And when it doesn't happen, we're incredibly disappointed. But sometimes in your life, just move, just be still for a minute. And the greatest joys come from surprises, right? You know,
The
you
right
get it.
kind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on what it is. You're like, you don't want me surprised by everything. Let's be real too, you know. But I think that ultimately, but having said that, even if we're gonna look at it from that perspective, it pressure it usually comes from I wasn't prepared. But you get better at it. Get better at
Yeah. And even in that surprise, even if you don't want it or like it,
it.
there's a lesson.
Right, right. My grandmother used to say, she used to say, my grandmother used to say, she goes, I could complain, but it's not going to do no good.
I didn't have many quotes from my grandmama. She passed when I was 5. So we didn't get to really get those, but I love that you have these gems from your ancestors, and like that's a gift. Truly a gift. What would you like to be remembered for by those who know and love you?
Mm, that's deep. I would love that how I made them feel because I don't treat all my friends the same.
Of course
Everyone
not.
gets everyone gets they get the best of me, but they're also going to get they're going to receive what they give me, right? They're going to receive how that relationship started because every relationship is like a fingerprint. It's very unique,
Yes.
right? And that's how you have more authenticity in your relationships because how I speak to you is going to be different from another friend because of our relationship, right? Because of the memories that we've created together. Even if we were in a group, it's still, "Shante, remember that time when we were at that dinner party with so and so and she was doing that, and this, right?" So
It's
it's
history.
still right. So I would love to be remembered for that because how it's felt when someone's treated me with kindness, even a stranger, and how that one kindness is still it's still resonating in my soul right now. So I don't think we can ever underestimate a moment or how we treat someone. And I'm always mindful of that. I falter like everybody else. I may not call people back right away, but I would like to believe that in that moment that I'm impacting the world in some way when I do that because I have people that sometimes come back in my life that I haven't seen or heard from in years, right? And they'll start off by saying, "Look, Chris, I'm so and so. Remember me?" And I don't see the name and be like, oh my goodness, I've seen a person in 10 years, 20 years. Of course I remember you, right? So if people can introduce themselves to you and they haven't seen you in a while, that means whatever moment you have with them, that is how they remember you. Even if they haven't seen you for 20 years, right? Or it could be like, remember LaChris, she was so rude to me on Facebook. She said something real nasty to me, and I unfriended her. I've had people unfriend me too. Hey, it is what it is. But the
Bye.
funny thing about it is, some of those same people that unfriend me, friend me again. And I'm just like, no, I'm confused. So were you having an emotional moment, or do you really just not like me? you know? So, because I'm good. I'm going to tell
All
you
up,
the truth.
all up in their feelings. I was like, not hurt. And then they
Right.
realized, oh, she was right. It would be nice if they were able to go, so, you said this. I felt this. You're right. And that's why I'm back. And then there's this full circle moment to go,
Right. Right.
oh,
Right.
child, people,
Yeah.
bless their hearts. That's nice. How you made them feel. That's good. I like that. Any regrets?
You always want more time. And I can't say that I have regrets per se because you learn, right? I think it's more, could I have been given more time? And what I realize is that you can't do it all. Like if you hear of a friend's passing or you hear of a moment and you wished you had said that one thing, but really you said everything you needed to say then, right? So to beat yourself up about it, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's insignificant, but there's always more opportunities to redeem, right? Redemption is always around the corner. So if you didn't have that moment with that person and you said we needed to say, you're going to be given another opportunity in another situation to use your voice. If you lost someone early, you're going to still be given that opportunity to keep loving the people that's right here, right now in your life. So I don't want to say regret so much, always want more time. I have the time right now, so I got to use it, right? And it is just, it keeps pushing you forward. I always tell people, there's a laundry list of things. It's impossible, right? And that bucket list, we all have our bucket list. So let's be real. Some of us are not going to get to it all. Not going to get to it. And I have my long bucket list of all the places I was going to travel to, been delayed. It's just been delayed because life got in the way. Things that I could not control. So revisit the bucket list and alter it a little bit. That's what I say about life. It's just alter it. Nobody says you got to keep it and be rigid. No regrets, and to do things differently, from the last time. So, yeah, that's how I see it.
Anything else you'd like to share to the universe that may benefit someone, someplace, somewhere?
I think one of the things I used to teach my students, it may take you a while to discover all these amazing things about yourself, but you have it within you. And that's what I try to encourage the people I love in my life. You have so much. And don't ever feel like you cannot be yourself. Because sometimes people have problems with you and it has nothing to do with you. It's really them. So be yourself, love on yourself, and be okay. You're okay. You're going to get it. You're going to find it, right? So, and in this world of uncertainty where there's so much pressure to know something, what does it mean to live in worlds that are not ours? It means you're constantly uncomfortable, right? So get out of that world and go to the world where you are comfortable. Now you're going to always experience some level of discomfort. But if I know that someone is uncomfortable with me, I'm not going to keep pushing myself onto them, right? If the job that I'm not where I'm not appreciated, I'm not going to stay there. So you have to continually say to yourself, I'm worth so much more than what is happening to me right now. And just say, yeah, the logistics behind making change is very complex sometimes, but you can do it the other side of it. Don't waste time. Just don't waste time.
Yes, because time keeps moving. Just got to use it.
Yes,
It does not pause or wait for anyone.
not at all. Mm-mm.
Wow.
Wow. This is a wow. Like, I haven't had a concentrated, deep discussion about life in a minute like we're having right now. I've had moments of discussion about things, but like this holistic conversation we're having is just it's wow. You're gonna be taking notes after this.
Well, I am so glad I can help you with that.
I'm so happy you're doing this. This is so amazing. So amazing.
Well, with that, I would like to thank my guest, LaChris Jordan, for joining me underneath the shade tree, and tune in next time and see how we get in the shade. Thanks ever so for joining us underneath the shade tree. If you enjoyed the show, please click like and subscribe, and be sure to join us next time. And remember, every day above ground is a gift, so let's do our best to make it matter with grace, courage, and no regrets. Now go be fantabulously fierce.